Okay, so Bad Wolf ran another budget commander event. As usual, link to the website in the description. Not sponsored, they're just cool. It's cool. Anyway, this time I did bring the chicken for luck. I did not play Stroke second. Now, I was first to be eliminated in round 1 because I was too much of a threat too quickly, and second in the losers pod because again I was too much of a threat and had trouble getting my deck online as a result. So, what is so dangerous, you may ask? This bitch right here. So, the Mindskinner can't be blocked. If its also control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, each opponent mills that many cards. So already, base Mindskinner, everyone's milling 10. Very fun. So, let's start off then with the ramp suite, which is pretty basic. Commander Sphere, Mindstone. Because, I don't know whether I'm Mindstone, but there's enough colorless pips in this that, or enough generic mana need in this that I may as well. Banished Heart, Decanter, Endless Water, High Tide, very fun. Doubles the blue mana from islands the rest of the turn. Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Fellwar Stone, and Sadbot, signed by the guys from Chad Magic, Wally and Christian. Shout out to them in the unlikely event they are watching. That was a lucky pull from one of their Whatnot streams. So, the draw suite, also pretty basic, but then again, budget event, 50 quid for the deck, 2 quid for the commander, no more than 2 quid a card. Impulse, Seize the Secrets, Quick Study, Fact or Fiction, Compulsive Research, Pearl of Wisdom, Frantic Search, Deep Analysis, which I'll set to the side for the moment, there's a funny there. Catalogue, Curate, Shadow Course, and Wizard Class, that also does hand-size shenanigans. Now, in one of the test games, we played a few rounds of casual before the event, as we do. Friend of the channel Maya was down to 2 cards in her library. And I had Deep Analysis in hand and the mana open to cast it. Notice that it isn't I draw 2 cards, it's target player draws 2 cards. I could legitimately have killed Maya using this card. I chose not to. Just because, well, it felt... it would have been funny as hell, but it also felt kind of rude. At that point, she was probably going to win regardless. Other friend of the channel, Big Josh, had sort of kept me alive, rather than choosing to kill me, but at the same time, I was out of the game by that point. I'd let my commander go to the graveyard, but no recursion, because I figured, yeah, I'm fucked. I'm just going to see what I can draw into. Eventually I made a Big Thopter. So I'm with that. Speaking of Big Thopter, let's look at artifact synergies, because... Actually, no, let's quickly do the interaction suite first. We have the basics, Essence Scatter, Run Away Together, which I'll set aside. There was a fun target for that I got off in a few practice games. Resculpt, Enable the Stream, Reality Shift, Stop Cold, Stasis Field, Raven Form, Blexing Test, Propaganda, Etherize, Essence Capture, So Shiny, and Snap. Very basic mono blue interaction suite. But it works. So, let's quickly run through the artifact synergies before we get to the equipment. Thopter Spy Network, a bit of a draw engine. You can see we come up. Metallurgic Summonings, never drew into it. But this is the kind of deck where I can get use out of it. Like Mono Blue Voltron, you're gonna get a lot of, you're gonna get 6 more artifacts, no problem. You're gonna have enough spells that you can recur. It's neat. So then, Psy, Thopters when you cast an artifact, sure. Tarrand, didn't kill as much, I got some drakes out of it. Shark Typhoon, I got a lot of stuff from artifacts from this. Efficient Construction. Fim, better source of Thopters in this deck than Spy Network, but it doesn't have the benefit of draw. Brass Squire, never drew into it, but it's in here for obvious reasons. Ethereum Sculptor, same thing. So, on to the equipment. Grappling Hook. It's 4 mana, quick 4, double strike. Needless to say, just that boosts the Mindskinner to everyone milling 20, which is nuts. Stratascythe is very fun in mono decks. Like, in 2+ colours, not worth it. In a mono deck, it's the second copy of Blackblade Reforged that potentially gets even bigger than Blackblade if anyone else is in your colour. Very fun. Ace of Baseball Bet. It's a nice simple total of 3 to get out, so by the time I got my commander on the board, I can cast and equip this in the same turn. Milner. Basically it mills target opponent for the number of attack creatures I control. Came a couple of times and get a ton of use out of it. Nuke Launcher. This one, I'm actually not sure what the ruling is on rad counters being a damage source I control, but if they're not, this is the only way of dealing actual damage in the deck with the commander on the board, which is very funny. But, more importantly, it forces the opponent to mill during their turn if they cast anything. Ring of Evocile. This is how I can tell it's a budget deck. There's weird bullshit in here. So, Ring of Evocile makes the equipped creature slightly bigger if it's blue. And, more importantly, you can give it hexproof till end of turn. One of a couple of hexproof enables in the deck. Did not see them enough. Okay, Golden Skin Gauntlets is a fun one for equipment Voltron. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each equipment attached to it, which is basically a slightly worse Nettle Fist, but with a total cast and equipment cost of 3, so it's kind of worth it. Blackblade Reforged, nice pretty printing of it. This is probably going in a mono red deck after this. Same goes with Nettle Fist. Strength Testing Hammer is just... Strength Testing Hammer and Mindskinner is a no-brainer. Because Mindskinner is always going to be the greatest Paramount creature on the battlefield, unless you're absolutely fucked. So you're probably going to get the card draw off, even when you roll 1. Candlestick, I just wanted some Surveil. Crown Power Suit, another obvious one, never really drew into it. Fire Shrieker, the cheapest double strike enabler, let's set that to one side. Sculpting Steel is exactly what it says on the tin, basically. You copy your best equip. Masterwork, you copy your best equip. Naginata, another one that comes to total CMC to cast and equip 3. Nice and worth it. Champion's Helm, obvious one. Trepidation Blade is very fun in Mindskinner. It's another random ass card that no one's fucking heard of, which is how you know it's fun. So, when a quick creature attacks, defending player reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a land card. The creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each card revealed this way. That player puts the revealed card into his or her graveyard. Now, this means that already you're milling opponents, which is what you want to do anyway, and it makes the Mindskinner bigger, which means that when it connects, which it will, then milling even more. Brilliant card, highly recommended, very fun time. So, let's also set aside these 3 and let's see, for those 3, Stratascythe and Sculpting Steel. Yes, because these 5 cards all have one thing in common that we'll get to in a second. So, miscellaneous fun stuff. Fraying Sanity, double someone's mill, very strong. Fucking Trophy Mage. Okay, so this and Run Away Together wasn't an intentional combo, but it was something I managed to get off several times in test games that was extremely potent. So basically, Run Away Together, choose 2 target creatures from different players, return to their owner's hands. In Commander, this is usually going to remove something from 2 different opponents. But Trophy Mage lets you recycle the ATB, because when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with CMC 3. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. So, good hits for that then. Trepidation Blade, it costs 3. Sculpting Steel, double up on anything. I did double up on Trepidation Blade at one point, which was very fun. Right up until I turned over 2 lands in a row right off the bat. Shit. They've been ramping like hell all game as well. The worst possible luck. Champion's Helm. It's 3. Fire Shrieker, it's 3. Stratascythe, it's 3. Ordinarily, it's a really useless tutor considering it's so limited, but in this deck, it has enough genuinely extremely powerful hits that it's always worth it. Mana base then. Expanse Wilds, Island. Let's just and some islands. Anyway, yeah. The event itself. The first practice game was 1v1 with friend of the channel Toru. This deck won. There was another practice game where a friend of the channel Maya borrowed this one and piloted it better than me, as expected. She's a more experienced player. And she was routinely milling the entire pod for 62 on each of her turns. But the thing is, I had White Sun Zenith in hand, enough mana to continually recycle it, so I never quite decked out. And then she managed to bounce the Mindskinner to hand and put all the equipment she'd amassed onto a Thopter and swing for exactly lethal. And if she hadn't realised Champion's Help could go on it as well, it would literally come down to the dice roll from Strength Testing Hammer, where either she rolls 5, she rolls 2 through 6 and kills me, or rolls a 1, I survive on 1 health, and I'm able to kill her next turn with what's left of my board state. Because just to further complicate things, I had Takasu's Welcome in play, which means that the first time I create tokens, or basically the first time one or more creatures enter the battlefield in my control each turn, I draw a card. I don't want that to happen. Luckily, I had a Planeswalker out that let me generate tokens, and I realised eventually I had exactly enough mana to, on my upkeep, cast White Sun Zenith for X equals 0, just for the 3 white pips. It shuffles back into my library, and it's then the only card in my library, meaning I draw it for turn. And then, cast White Sun Zenith for 0, shuffling it back into my library, and activate the loyalty ability in a Planeswalker to generate 1 singular token. I draw White Sun Zenith, and it's back in my hand to cast on my next turn, on my next upkeep. Really fun game state, admittedly. There was also one point where Toru was in Neheb as Dragon deck, which was pretty strong. But one of the funniest interactions in there was a dragon that gave creatures attacking her opponent's double strike, which, combined with my deck, meant that she was also milling double. Anyway, yeah, Mindskinner, it's gonna be the threat if you build it, but it's also a very fun deck to play, because sometimes you want to be the villain. Anyway, I'll see you next week when we look at something a little bit smaller.